Hello and welcome to Meta Sparks. Today's episode is all about Cowboy from 2002's Little Beethoven. And if you haven't seen the channel before, what I do is I take a deep dive into these lyrics, and I'm always looking for one thing, and that is how these lyrics can comment on what was happening in the Sparks story at that time. I found that there are always really interesting conclusions to draw when you look at these songs as being allegories and metaphors for whatever's happening artistically in Sparks world. So let's not hang about. Today's song is one of the funniest and most dramatic songs that Sparks ever did. So let's find out what Cowboy says about Sparks.
They laughed with me, then laughed at me. They said, how true. They said, not you. They thought, how wise. And thought, goodbye. You hit your stride and missed the high. They laughed with me, then laughed at me. They said, how true. And said, not you. They thought, how wise. And thought, goodbye. You hit your stride and missed the high.
Cowboy has always been a really important song to me, and that's because it served as a kind of gateway drug into this meta way of looking at the band. At the time, I only knew a handful of Sparks albums, but two songs really connected with me as being Sparks commenting on Sparks, and that was When Do I Get to Sing My Way? About a character who felt like he deserved far more success and recognition than he got, and also Pulling Rabbits Out of a Hat, in which a magician performs actual miracles but they're mistaken for cheap stage magic, and an uninterested audience just give polite applause. So I saw both of these songs as Sparks commenting on both their own genius and lack of recognition in the funniest and most grandiose way, and Cowboy continues that tradition. They laughed with me, then laughed at me is the career trajectory that we saw with Sparks before Little Beethoven. Think of the path they took through the Island years. They hit big immediately, going straight to number 2 with This Town Ain't Big Enough for the Both of Us, but subsequent singles fared worse and worse until they dropped out of the charts altogether. Within a couple of years, they were mauled by the critics and disappeared from public view. So here, they're comparing their career to taming a wild horse. So the song is full of examples of these heroes to zeros, and while I Got Thrown Again, Get Back On Again sounds like they're being beaten up time and again, there's a more nuanced way of looking at it. They're comparing their career to taming a wild horse. It's a constant battle, taking patience and hard work. So this song is saying that the music industry is a tough place to be, and Sparks have had enough of it. In fact, on the album before this one, Balls, they wrote about the same subject, but this time it was when they were signed to a record label. Cowboy appears to be a follow-up to the song More Than a Sex Machine, which is about an aging male gigolo who feels underappreciated, just as Sparks feel underappreciated in the music industry. He knows he has more to offer than just being a sex machine. So, as I was saying, this works equally well as the main story about an aging male gigolo who's demeaned because he's forced to perform, and also as a pop star who's beholden to the whims of his record label. It said, I made my reputation then, as in the 1970s, when it was expected that a young band like Sparks would make straight pop music. But But by the end of the 90s, when they were making Balls, there was a new equation. So, of course, Sparks felt dejected in being asked to make straight pop music by their record label. They'd first signed with Logic Records in 1994 for Gratuitous Sax and Senseless Violins, and they hit big immediately. So it sounds like it was a good relationship with the label. Oh, what a time, that's what you said. But then the label didn't appreciate the intellectual side and the sensitive side of Sparks songwriting. All that they said was ride baby ride, as in I got thrown again, get back on again. So Sparks are using the same metaphor for facing these trials in the music industry. This verse even follows the same downward trajectory. Remember, they laughed with me became they laughed at me, and here they say, oh, what a time, that's what you said, being a positive, great relationship, and that's flipped on its head for you never asked, are you well read? So now let's move on to the next verse of Ride 'em Cowboy.
I swam, I sank, got sea, unranked, the pole, the wall, the pride, the fall, a state of grace, sucked in the face, a state of mind, in hard decline. From great to good, from good to fair, to barely pass, stay after class. I'm hot, I'm cold, I'm bought, I'm sold, first accolades, then hand grenades. They hate your look, they hate your book, they hate your guts. You've heard another. It's not your day, it's not your week, it's not your month, it's not your year. First day, okay, then I, O-U, B-M, O-C, then M, I-A, from D, I-Y, to D, U-I, from 4, 1, 1, to 9, 1, 1, ride 'em, cowboy, ride 'em.
How great are those lyrics? It's one of Sparks' funniest songs, and it's really underrated in my view. Now, Ride 'em Cowboy has all the hallmarks of Little Beethoven, including the repetition with the line, I got thrown again, get back on again, and Ride 'em Cowboy, ride 'em. But it differs from all the songs we've heard so far because it's really wordy. I popped on ChatGPT and I asked for the number of distinct words in the first 4 songs on the album, and as you can see, they're all quite low. And that's because these songs all use the same phrases over and over again, and that's what we see on the song that follows, Ride 'em Cowboy, My Baby's Taking Me Home, which famously repeats that line again and again and adds in a spoken section in the middle. So in that sense, Ride 'em Cowboy sticks out from the songs that surround it because it's got a really high number of distinct words. But the repetition is front and center as ever, but this time not in using the same words, but in using the same idea. Success to failure, expressed in tens of different ways. Now, Sparks are geniuses at this. They've got this ability to say the same thing in many different ways. And to ram this point home, let's take a look at the song After Next, which also follows the same success to failure narrative.
At first she said,
Your call is very important to us.
and then she said,
Be told, be told.
and then she said,
Your call is very important to us.
and then she said,
Be told, be told.
green, green light,
Your call is very
red
important to
light,
us.
green, green light,
Be
red
told, be
light,
told.
green, green light,
Your call is very
red
important to
light,
us.
green, green light.
Be told, be told.
This is a mini opera about the pains of being put on hold by a call centre, but underneath that is a very similar theme of success turning into failure, or progress being blocked. Green, green light is like they laughed with me, then the red light of they laughed at me. Now, I've got a lot more to say on Your Call is Very Important to Us, but that's in 2 episodes' time. So let's get back to Ride 'em Cowboy.
From soup to nuts, from chalk to guts, from shore to chance, from can to cans, from smart to dumb, from bread to crumbs, from wound to board, ole, then chord, ride 'em cowboy,
I've got thrown again,
ride 'em cowboy,
get back on again.
ride 'em cowboy,
I've got thrown again,
ride 'em cowboy,
get back on again, get back on again, get back on again, get back on again.
Let's take a minute to appreciate these lyrics, not just because they're really funny, but how well they apply to Sparks. It goes from smart to dumb, and Sparks are more than capable of both. The band that gave us this also gave us this. And then from bread to crumbs, this is a band who have sold a ton of records, but they've also faced financial despair. Then it goes from wowed to bored, and this can be talking about the audience. And the audience is a recurring character in Sparks music, appearing in several notable songs. And then my favourite line, Olay, then gored. So you've got the grandstanding of a bullfighter, much like a great performance from a rock band, only to fall from grace and be gored by this bull. This hero to zero arc is something that they followed many times in their career. I spoke about the Island Years earlier, but they also did the same as part of a disco scene then in France and America and Germany. And that's represented in this song by playing out the same scenario on repeat. But what's really interesting is that if this song really is talking about these repeated failures and falling from the spotlight, then this is the point where that pattern of behaviour changed. The first half of their career is defined as much by the failures as the successes, and the last failure was Bulls. When Sparks came back with Little Beethoven just 2 years later, they no longer had that air of a band who were chasing chart hits. This didn't feel like a band who were interested in the top 40 or getting played on daytime radio. And it wasn't a one-off. Each subsequent record is characterised by a steady accumulation of critical success and artistic validation. We now see them as a band who are fully in control of their own art. So Sparks post Little Beethoven is a world away from the first half of their career. So maybe this success to failure narrative isn't really about their career, it's about their past. They know that they've put this behind them. Sparks are no longer going to fail. There'll be no missteps and no more playing the losers. So the thing that I do on this channel is I take these Sparks songs and I show how the words can give a sense of these songs knowing their own place in Sparks history. And that's what we get with Ride 'em Cowboy. It's identifying the problem that Sparks need to solve. And over the next few songs and into the start of Hello Young Lovers, we see them exploring how to change direction, how to become this new version of Sparks.
From just desserts to just desserts, from your or me to ça suffit, from bon vivant to sick upon, from open door to merde alors. From just desserts to just desserts, from your or me to ça suffit, from bon vivant to sick upon, from open door to merde alors.
So there's another great line with from just desserts to just desserts, because commonly if somebody has their just desserts, then it means that they get their comeuppance. But it literally means getting what you deserve. So that can be a positive thing or a negative thing. Or similarly, it can mean that you're getting just like pudding. And that can be a good thing or a bad thing. So now I'm going to bring today's episode to a close by talking about how the theories I've discussed today can be applied more widely, and similar ideas can be seen on the songs that come before and after it. So the main thing I've been talking about is that this is referencing Sparks' career. But of course, there's nothing in the lyrics that explicitly points that out. However, referencing Sparks' place in the music industry fits in quite well with other songs on side A of Little Beethoven. It starts out with Lights Out Ibiza, which is a reference to a contemporary music genre. On How Do I Get to Carnegie Hall, we have a musician play out his career, just as I'm saying that Sparks are doing that on Ride 'em Cowboy. So it's a song about a career trajectory. You can also interpret track 3, What Are All These Bands So Angry About, as being about a career trajectory, because it starts off by having Sparks in second place to new metal bands like Limp Bizkit, and ends with them aspiring to stand beside the likes of Beethoven, Coltrane and Lady Day. So it's about breaking out of the music scene to become the legends that they know they are. So if you look at it that way, Ride 'em Cowboy is quite a comfortable fit for Little Beethoven. And it also sets precedents for songs that follow. Hopefully you'll remember earlier I said that they experiment with the concept of repetition, not by repeating the same lines over and over again, but repeating the same concepts, saying the same thing in many different ways. Well, Hello Young Lovers, the album that followed Little Beethoven, also experiments heavily with repetition, both in concept, things like storytelling, and in the structure of these songs. As an example, it starts with a character who does the same thing every day, every day, every day. And then it ends with an organist who takes home a new tourist girl every night, every night, every night. It's there on almost every song. And it shows that Ron and Russell are working to a kind of conceptual songwriting that takes on a whole new meaning as soon as you start to decode it. Now, over the next few episodes, I'm going to show how the songs describe how Sparks are making their creativity blossom now that they're free from the constraints of the record label. And it's a story that I really can't wait to tell. So once again, I'd like to thank everybody for sticking with me and watching this. And please like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I love reading all your comments, and a big special thanks to everybody who's been on buymeacoffee.com. It's really helpful to support the channel. So cheers guys. So let's call it a day, and until next time, goodbye.